untrained, unworthy.
You forgot one. Unstoppable.
Woo! We are here for the most exciting, entertaining character of all time. I'm just joking. But no, in all seriousness, Sonic 2 is upon us, and we're going to be giving you guys a non-spoiler review. I have a co-host here, member of Team JVS, and Jorge. What's going on, brother?
What is going on, everybody? Happy to be here. I am bummed that this is a non-spoiler review, but I will keep myself in check, I promise.
Yeah, you got to see it. So we got to see it on different terms. I got to see it by myself with a public theater with like a combination of kids and general people, and Jorge got to see it with press, but he also got to see it with his two favorite people, his kids. And so, real quick, what was their experience of the film? I know we got a brief reaction, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was very interesting because just naturally, as soon as they came out, they just were nonstop talking about it. So, it was, they did their whole little reaction, feel free and look at that video. It was like 2 sentences of anything that they can spew out that was, like logical and normal. But it was neat kind of seeing them in that environment. Just because there weren't that many, it was mostly adults all around, but it was watching a kid's movie. And they loved it though. And I even thought, because throughout the movie, there's multiple story points happening. Mm-hmm. And I thought for them, they wouldn't care too much about the human aspect of it and just care more about like the Sonic aspect of it.
Yeah.
But no, like they were digging it and, even laughing at all like the adult type of like human jokes that were happening. So this movie kind of hit a really nice pace where literally all ages will enjoy it. Like there's something for everyone in this. So I thought that was, from their point of view, it was nice just seeing them, because there's some cartoon movies that you watch and only the adults laugh at certain things because it's like adult fun, like adult humor, and then like kids are laughing at other stuff. But in this one, it's like they were cracking up the whole time. So it was good. No, they definitely enjoyed it. Got a little spoiled on that one, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it was kind of like weird because the experience in my theater was I was like, okay, this is the public. They're gonna be, geeking and making a whole bunch of noise and be obnoxious, and the kids are gonna be obnoxious. But generally, the kids were enjoying it. The adults were enjoying it. They were laughing when they were supposed to laugh. They were emotional when it was a little emotional. And I think when the action hit, they were really engaged. And I think it's a combination of the cast and the fact that they won us over the first time. I think the first one won a lot of people over from not just the conceptual design, but the first one actually was pretty good. Like a lot of people universally say that is one of the best, video game adaptation movies that ever came out. And the question was always for me was this one going to be up to par as that one, or maybe be possibly better? I knew Knuckles was coming.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, okay, you got a really big name in Idris in this. You got Jim Carrey back, full 90s Jim Carrey, now looking completely like Eggman.
Yeah.
You kind of like, you got way too many things. And you got Tails.
Yeah.
You got Colleen, the original person, like voicing Tails back. And so I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. But it did. It was great.
It was interesting. And I don't know how your theater was. So growing up in like the 90s, it was always like, are you a Sega person or are you a Super Nintendo person?
Right.
And it was so neat because you could tell which adults like were full-blown Sega people. Because this movie, and I hate saying like it was like fan service, but there was so many like little fan service scenes in here and like little things that happen that if you've played the Sonic games throughout the years, you will not be disappointed. Because there are so many like little cues here and there that you're just like, oh, oh, oh. And it's like, I was geeking out from that part, which was neat because, you know, like my kids, obviously, they were like, oh, why was that like cool to you? Like, why were you so excited? And I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you just have no idea. So, no, yeah. So I thought this, because it's weird. Now I can't say like, because when you say fan service, people think of like the last Matrix that came out, which it is what it is. You know, I'm just going to leave it at that. But this one, I think did it right. Like they hit on all the things. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Like just how good they got his outfit and everything is just done so well in this one. Like the attention to detail for even like little things are just phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. For me, it was kind of like you said, like there was so many different callbacks. And I mean, we could honestly, I get what you're saying, man, this is gonna be hard. There's so many callbacks, you guys, and I don't want to waste time, but down to like instruction manuals, things that are billboards, action moments, phrases, characters. Everything I just said is all technically all the fan service that we're talking about, and you will get it immediately, even if you're not a long time. And I think that's the thing about the first one was kind of like anybody that knew of Sonic was kind of like, oh wow, I remember all this. But anybody that's a fan of Sonic, this is your movie. This movie is for you. And I think that even like the action, they kind of ramped up the action with this one, because I was kind of like, you know, how are they going to really utilize Tails? You know, I'm like, Tails, I was like, I don't think I remember about Tails. He just followed me all everywhere, you know? But in all actuality, they gave Tails a story arc. They gave him character. They gave him a very interesting, not just the design of Two Tails that, you know, he's spinning around, but no, he's a technological enthusiast. Like he is the brains, and also he's the heart. And he's also, you know, in a way, the thing that symbolizes Sonic kind of growing out, you know, and like him mentoring somebody else instead of him being the mentoree. And so I love that dynamic of their relationship, because I was kind of like, are they really going to have time to kind of give us a real Sonic and Tails relationship? And they do. They really do make time for it. And their stakes are high because of it. Whereas, like, if you see this image right here, you know, this is actually a callback from the first one, where, you know, Sonic was in the same situation, but it's very vastly different because now it's not just him running around. He has something to protect. Not just his family, but now others that are around him. And I thought that was very fascinating. What was one thing you really enjoyed about the film in terms of the characters? Like, what was kind of a standout for you? I have my own. That's the reason why I'm asking. I'm curious if it's going to be the same for you.
So I kind of have, I'll go two different ways, because I think, you know, from the actual, like, the trio, like Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, I definitely enjoyed Knuckles. I think maybe a little too much, because I think so. Did you know that? I agree with everything you kind of said about Tails, but I wish they would have given him a little bit more time to develop and to kind of have that full blown relationship building. Because I think that was one part that it, like, we understood it, but I would have loved to seen that relationship build from a human point of view. You know, Agent Stone for me is like, he's the perfect like henchman, like B guy, you know, like, just the way he works, and every scene he was in, like, he stole that scene for the most part. You know, everything he was doing, the way he would act, and then how different he was, you know, when, you know, Dr. Robotnik comes back. Like, it's such a, his character doesn't have that much screen time, but it makes such a huge impact.
Right.
every time he's on there. So I would say, you know, between Knuckles and him, those were definitely mine. How about for you?
Yeah, definitely Knuckles is the first on my head work because this is the thing. When Knuckles first shows up, right? And we've seen Dr. Robotnik in his element in the first one, and even in the beginning stages of this film, you're kind of like, oh, okay, he's a force to be reckoned with. When Knuckles comes on the scene, you realize, oh, wait, hold on, this is a whole different level. And you're kind of like, you know, Sonic, he's fast, but Knuckles is on a different level. And it's kind of like Idris is playing this character, and of course, Idris is an amazing actor. But the funny thing about it is that it's not resting on Idris as an actor. It's more so resting on who the character is and where he kind of comes from. Because if you saw the very first one, you it showed different parts about his people, you know,
Mhm.
and then the combative nature of what happened, why Sonic even ended up on Earth is all connected to Knuckles' people, and they kind of really build that out. They do in your own respect. I think that they definitely give Knuckles way more airtime to breathe and to develop as a character than they do with Tails. Even though Tails I still love as a character because he is that human element that that Sonic needs to
Yeah.
level up to where he needs to get to. I thought that they did a great job with Knuckles, man. Not just him as a character, but him and his power set. I was
Yeah.
like, every moment that he was on scene, like he was just a beast, and
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, if as a kid, you would probably just be like, if you were a Knuckles fan, this is for you. You know,
Yeah.
this movie is all for you. I do have some critiques. I'll go into that a little bit because even way that Knuckles kind of acted, you know, how he reacted to certain things, I was like, you know what, I would have loved a little bit more emotion here when you have such a great character actor.
Yeah.
They didn't kind of rest into that. I felt like honestly, up until the very end, like a large part of the movie, I didn't really emotionally feel anything. Whereas the first movie, I felt a little bit more emotional resonance. Like I felt like, oh wow, I feel really sad here. It really feels like this whole entire movie was like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. Like I didn't. It wasn't until like a moment at a wedding that things started to switch up for me. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And
Yep.
speaking of wedding, there's a certain somebody that we saw from the first movie. She only had like a little bit of airtime, but it is the sister to this character right here. She she stole the show, man.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing: the first movie, her and her daughter were just hilarious. But this one, they give her a lot of room to breathe and give her something to do. And I really didn't care for, the main two original, human characters, but she added a different human element that I really did latch onto. And I think some people are going to be probably a little jaded about that. That the human characters in this one, they are very important, but it's very much so this transition phase where Tails and Knuckles are more important than the Donut Lord and his wife. You know what I mean? And I think that that's rightfully so because it needs to be a progression. Like Sonic is bigger than just being secluded to this family.
Yeah.
He is needed elsewhere. And I think that that's why I'm not going to deduct points, but I didn't really care because I was like, up until the wedding, I really could have cared less about them. But then the wedding changed, my perspective of how they're utilized. And it was a lot more fun from that point. But I don't know. What were some of the things you thought about?
Yeah, no, I agree with like the other character that stole the show for me was the one that you're talking about as well. But yeah, I think that kind of like this movie, and I don't want to use the word rush because it didn't feel rushed, but you literally had, I would say, like three different movies, like three different storylines happening at the same time.
Yep.
And I agree with you. The human storyline up until that wedding part, like, didn't really, like, you could have taken it out and I wouldn't have missed it that much.
Right.
You kind of had this, obviously, like, Knuckles and Sonic, kind of arc. And then you kind of had this little mini arc with, Tails. And if you want to even go, like, deeper, also, like, Sonic and Robotnik type of battling. Because in his own way, like, Jim Carrey did, like this is vintage Jim Carrey for me. Like this is
Yes.
Ace Ventura, you know, just him showing what he can do at the end of the day, which was awesome. But yeah, no, I would say I wish, and it's hard because this one did play just like a video game where it's like, you know, scene after scene after scene. It's just like action, 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 you know, where you really don't have too much of an emotional thing until everything breaks down, you know, midway, you know, in the middle of the movie. One thing though that I will say that I haven't heard many people talking about, but I thought was done so incredibly well was the music in this. Like the music was on point, like beyond on point. Like I was rocking out throughout the whole movie. You know, that's something that they did excellent with, and everything just jived perfectly, like period correct, everything, you know, type of stuff. So I was jamming out basically the whole time. But no, it was good. For me, I think that's the human storyline was kind of the one that was, if I had to put it somewhere, that was the weakest link in this movie.
Right. Like, say, hypothetically speaking, if from the beginning of the movie, humans weren't there, and then it was like, oh, okay, they're at a wedding, and they just like, Sonic, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, if it kicked off from that point, it would have been, to me, it would have been better. And I hate to say it that way because some of you guys really latched on to James Marsden and, you know, his fellow cast member with that. But this is the thing too that I don't know. I'm gonna be real careful how I say it because I love Jim Carrey in this. I love him. Like he legit goes all the way in. But for the first time, you know, since the last one, not all the jokes landed for me. There were a few jokes that I felt like just didn't land, which is weird. I don't know. Is this the same exact director? But I don't know if they were written. It didn't. Some of the jokes and when they landed, and it's not even just Robotnik. Sometimes it might be Knuckles. Sometimes it may be a random dance moment in the woods, like this going over long. Like sometimes the jokes didn't land for me, but every time a joke didn't land, they'd follow it up with something very sweet or something very action paced, or they would get everything back on track. So I'm saying that as a critique because I'm a critic. I'm just letting you guys know that there were moments that the jokes just didn't work and it came off kind of campy, but never cringy, but campy. And it was campy in a way that I was like, okay, this makes me still remember this as a video game movie for kids. But sometimes I felt like it just wasn't really needed because you've already left a good foundation. And there's also some serious things and implications in this movie as well. Because some of the things that happened in the back half, I was just like, yo, this is kind of getting a little dark. And I don't know, I don't know how this is really going to end, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to say this. If you understand the gravity of this picture right here, as a fan of Sonic, whether you read the books, the comics, the games, just know they go for it. And if you can, stay until the first credit scene because you will not be disappointed. And that's all I gotta say.
No, 100% agree with you. Yeah, no, and I think that's kind of like even with that scene, and you know, there's a lot of little cut scenes that you know, from literally Sonic 2, like the actual video game, that you could almost mirror them up or like little still shots, and you're just like, oh, like that's from, like I remember that from the intro, or I remember that from here. So for me, I think those were the parts of the movie that, because the first Sonic was good. I'm trying to think how to phrase this carefully. I enjoyed it, but it's probably not something that I would seek out to watch again, like just to watch again. You know, like if it was on TV and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. This movie though, I would want to watch it probably a couple more times to catch everything that I missed.
Yep.
There was so much happening, and I know, like, you know, you can only catch so much the first time you see a movie, and then once you kind of know where things are going to be happening, you kind of start seeing in other places to see what else pops up. But yeah, no, this hit for me because I was a huge Sonic fan. You know, I was Team Sega back in the day, so Sonic and me were tight. But yeah, this shot alone is like straight out the video game.
Right, that's the original cover from Sega Genesis Sonic 2.
Yeah,
straight
like,
up.
and that's, I guess for me, that's what brought me like more to this movie and enjoyed it even more.
Yeah.
Because of all these proper callbacks, and it wasn't forced. You know, like some of the things that you were saying, like, you know, kind of the callbacks, like as you were saying them in my head, those images were popping up one after another. I was like, yep. So no, it's awesome. And I think the more I'm thinking about it now, I do agree with you. If you could have taken out the time spent before kind of like the wedding scene type of stuff, all the human part out of that, and it would have been neat to see like just Sonic and Tails, like building their character, and then like that happening, because that actually you wouldn't be losing anything,
right?
Like it's not like it would have been chaotic or crazy, you know, something like that. But yeah, no, it definitely, like, it's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but as a fun, like, video game geek that I was back in the day, like this was amazing. Like this was so well done, like so well done.
Yeah, I feel like there's a trend that, you know, if you have like an old school cartoon that's being brought up, like you have to have human characters attached to them. Normally, all different ones, whether it's Alvin the Chipmunks or whatever it is, like they always have to add humans to it. I think even the Smurfs movie had to have humans to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Sonic, the first movie came out, I was like, okay, this is the first time this actually worked. Organically, I understood why it had to work to get him to Earth, right? But for this one, not so much. It wasn't really needed. Like they're interesting on their own, and the worlds that they come from are possibly more interesting than Earth. So it's kind of like what I really wanted. I wanted there to be, never mind, I can't say it.
But so just to jump off that, just so we don't get ourselves in trouble here. Do you think that the reason that they added more human elements, even though it works, when you really think about Sonic and all the character arcs that they're there, I mean, even the cartoon, there's not that many characters, so you really don't have a lot to pull from. And I wonder if they just thought that wasn't going to be enough.
So I'm gonna say this, and only because I played the games, but I also did watch the cartoons and read the comics. And just this small little lineup. This isn't all the characters.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. There's a lot of characters that they can pull from. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, that's true.
So I'm saying, what I'm saying is that in the beginning, I get that.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, I get that. But because this isn't just a alien hedgehog that's just here, like he actually comes from somewhere, and he actually does have history elsewhere that he doesn't even know about. Now you're starting to pull from other characters from other places. Dude. Like they could take this galactic, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't have to be on Earth. Like even just going back from the very last movie to the opening of this, Robotnik was on a mushroom planet.
Yes. Which, by the way, that intro was hilarious. Like that just seeing that start of it, you kind of knew exactly how this movie was going to go because that was done so well.
Yeah. So Yeah. Yeah, I can't say much more. Stay
It's
to the
hard
end
not
credit.
to.
Stay to the end credit. Stay to the end. Um, there's gonna be more. There's gonna be a lot more. I think you had said there's gonna be a series coming up. And there's also gonna be probably a follow-up movie very soon. If this movie does well, I hope it does well financially. I really do.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
see why it wouldn't do well. Because the first one did great. Like this one, especially right now, like it's really not competing against anything major.
yeah, no, I think that because of the backlash of Morbius, I think this is gonna do a lot better
Yeah.
from an opening standpoint. But I could be wrong. I don't. It's got everything right in front of it that it could do well. I'm trying to think when Fantastic Beasts comes out. That might be the only drop off. That
That's
might
the
be a
end
few
of the
weeks.
month.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's at the end of the month it comes out. Like this is situated like in a very sweet spot where really there's nothing major coming out next week or the week after it. So it will have a full 2 weeks of glory, basically.
all right. So now let's go ahead and get to where everybody wants to know. What do you rate this in final thoughts? Oh, better yet, what do you compare this to the first one too?
Ooh, like comparing this to the first one?
So final thoughts, grade, and comparing it to the first one.
Oh goodness.
This
Final thoughts. Yeah, final thoughts. I loved and I love where they're going with this movie. I love what they're doing with the characters. I think it's like the way that they introduce Knuckles and his backstory allows a lot of movement with these movies going forward. Because you can explore, just like you said, like a whole bunch. And even if you make it, you know, you can have more than just the mini series that they're gonna do with Knuckles. Like you can have one with Tails, like
I want to
all
see
about
that.
Tails, you know,
That's
all
awesome.
about yeah, like you could really turn this into almost like a year long thing. Like, you know, the winter like TV season could be Knuckles, summer could be Tails, and then fall could be Sonic, and then finish it up and do a movie every couple of years. Like it's very feasible if they play their cards right. So overall, I think they opened up the floodgates to be able to do a lot with this movie. Replay values there, so definitely enjoyed that. Like enjoyed the whole movie. If I had to give this a grade, what are we doing? 1 through 10 or A through F? What do you want?
A through F. A through F. This is a kids movie.
A through F. All right. So A through F. I will give this so ready. I'm gonna break the system. I'm gonna give it a kid score and an adult score. So from a kid score, I will probably say like B plus. And the reason I say that is because you're competing with full-fledged animated movies, and I think for kids, like having like the human aspect, you're limiting your audience in a sense with kid movies and that. So I'll say B plus. From an adult aspect of it, if you're like a huge video game fan like I was, like yeah. Like this is a very strong like B to B plus, and it really depends on how they take this. Like, because if this does well in the box office and they open up this universe, like this is one of those where that like B plus can very quickly become an A, because this foundationally. To answer your third question, I enjoyed this movie more than the first.
Ooh, there we go.
I thought this was more of a, because it wasn't an origin story. Like you didn't have to make anything. Like this was a video game movie. Video game first movie, which is nice. And when you're able to make characters that you played growing up come to life and look so like memorable and actually act that way, like Jim Carrey physically does not look like Eggman, but my God, does he just fit? Like, and when you look at the cartoon and how like Eggman gets defeated sometimes and how he acts and his over the topness, like Jim Carrey checks all those boxes off.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. You know, I would say kids score B plus because they'll enjoy it. You know, comparing it to other cartoon movies, it's hard because this isn't a cartoon movie. Adult score, solid. You know, B plus, and I like the second one better than the first one. Oof. How about you?
All right. So I thought the human elements or the uses of the human elements in the first movie was better, but this is a better Sonic movie. This is all the way a Sonic movie without any like the amount of Easter eggs and just talking about Jim Carrey and his look. That's in and of itself an Easter egg. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
For me as a critic, this is a B plus, easily one of the most entertaining. And I'm not gonna say from a kid's standpoint, but I'm gonna say this from a gamer standpoint. I think as a gamer, gamers are gonna rate this at an A minus easily. This might actually be the best video game movie they've ever gotten. And you can tell me another better video game movie, but off the top of my head, I can't. I mean, the first one was already the top of the bar that most people said was the best video game movie.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm literally trying to think of one.
Thinking, right?
Yeah, it's like, because this was done like it was done correctly. I think that's like it was just done right.
Right. And like I'm not knocking, that last Tomb Raider movie. It was good, but it wasn't Sonic. And so until they come out with that Mario Brothers movie, no, I'm just joking. But no, I mean, there's no other way they could have made this more perfect unless they removed the humans and like made this completely CG and just took place in outer space or something crazy like that. I mean, if it took place on other worlds and they just removed the human element and everybody was all CG and just they kind of like what they did for remember Transformers Bumblebee? You remember that scene on Cybertron where everything was just there?
Yep.
Imagine that on an open scale with nothing but just Sonic and his characters and his world. That would be the pinnacle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they haven't gotten there yet. They could get there. That could be what the third one is going to be. But yeah, no, it was very entertaining. It was definitely heartfelt. And I think it was good for the kids and for gamers alike. I can't not give it an A minus from a gamer standpoint because I can't think of a video game movie that's better than this.
Yeah.
And if you can give me something more, then I will give it a B plus swiftly.
There's not like from a video game, and it's hitting the right market because people our age realistically played this growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have kids. Like we want to drive our kids to this. Like, come look at this. Like I used to play this game. Like my kids, after we watched this movie, like started playing Sonic, like on our little arcade machine that we have in our house.
Right.
Like it's one of those things where they're like, "Oh, you have Sonic here? Yeah, you want to play?" And it's literally playing like the original Sonic, and it's like that warms my heart. I'm like, yes, like. You don't need all these like crazy graphics and all this to have fun. So no, this, like I said, I hope that they open up this world because it will be so amazing, like what they could do with all this.
Right. And I was trying to think, I was like, Detective Pikachu, maybe. I was kind of like, do I think about Mortal Kombat? The last one is good. The more I think about it, I don't. The last Resident Evil was not good. Yeah. I mean, the pinnacle has always been to me Final Fantasy Advent Children, and Batman Assault on Arkham, based on the Arkham game and based on, Final Fantasy. Those were always the best to me. But when Sonic came out, it was like, okay, this is real and it's working. And I think this is it's hit another mark. And I think this is all we really need right now. And we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, we gotta go. We went way too long. Thank you.
Oh wait. Do you like this one better than the first one?
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Shoot. Let me get out of here.
But that's the crazy part, because how many sequels are that much better than the original? And this one like just supersedes it in a way for me.
So what you're saying is Sonic 1 was Batman Begins, and Sonic 2 is the Dark Knight. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But
It sounds like what you're saying. On that note, we're gone, people. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Peace, everybody.
Falling off the top of